guilt or regret or anxiety about the future. And that's how the mind is when we are identified with the surface. But we've covered this in our talks many times that every thought is really a dream you're having in a waking state. It's not really different from a dream in your sleep, because just like a dream in your sleep, the thought is not a true statement on reality, right? It's just coming from your subconscious mind, whatever the programming of your subconscious mind, it comes up and it colors your perception and makes the perception according to the past programming, right? So it's your attitude which is coloring everything in the moment. So you're never seeing the moment as it is. You're constantly seeing the moment through your perspective of the past, what the past has shaped you into. So in that sense, no thought is a real statement on reality. And yet we are not able to really see that, right? If we saw that, thoughts wouldn't have such a power to, you're perfectly happy and one thought about the past and your whole mood can go for a toss, right? Why? Because somehow, though we know this theoretically, in our experience we take thought very, very seriously. And it's difficult to shed thought, it's difficult to give away the reality of thought if we are not anchored in a reality beyond thought. You can't be in a limbo, right? If I tell you your thought is not real, then you will say, what is real? Because till you have an anchor in something real, we are happy with the phantom reality of our thoughts. So the real is that behind our thinking there is a field. It's the Kshetra of the Gita, the field of consciousness, which is just aware of thoughts as they come and go. And this field is the field of the real behind the dream reality of thought. And this field is also called the Purusha in the Gita. And there's a famous saying in the Gita, Shraddha Mayoham Purusha. The very fabric of the Purusha is faith, Shraddha, coming from two root words, Shraddha, truth, and Dha is holding on to. Holding on to your truth is Shraddha. And what is the truth of the Purusha? Sri Aurobindo calls it he's coined a beautiful term for it, Kalyan Shraddha. Faith in the goodness of existence. Faith in the knowing that nothing in this universe is happening randomly. That everything is perfectly planned. That in Shri or in Savitri there's a beautiful line, our least stumblings are foreseen above. So in that sense you feel unafraid of even making mistakes. Because even if my mistakes are part of the plan foreseen above, then I don't really need to fear even my mistakes, right? We get very worked up about our mistakes because we start fearing the consequences of making that mistake, right? But Mother says it so beautifully. I mean, her sentences are so simple and so deep. She says the best way of dealing with any difficulty is a calm, quiet confidence in grace. Now that calm, quiet confidence in grace is Kalyan Shraddha. But are we able to access that Kalyan Shraddha in the moment when we get rattled, in the moment when we either are cursing people for their mistake or cursing ourselves for our mistakes? At that moment, are we able to keep that calm, quiet confidence in grace? That's the question. In the moment, in hindsight, maybe, but at that very moment, can we access that grace? Can we really be calm? Can we be infinitely forgiving towards ourselves and towards others? And if we have this faith in grace, only then can forgiveness come, right? Otherwise, we are too afraid of the consequences of our mistakes, of the trespasses of others, to be able to easily forgive. But if we are somewhere assured that whatever I've done, whatever others have done, it's happening in the field of Bhadram. Bhadram is this beautiful Sanskrit word for eternal good. So everything is happening in the field of eternal good, and somehow it will be taken care of. Even if I've made mistakes, to learn from them and move on. There's no point going on flogging myself, going on fearing consequences of the mistakes. The more I fear the consequence of the mistake, the more I'll keep criticizing myself, isn't it? But if I remove the consequence of the mistake, my re-stumbling is foreseen about. If I've been made to stumble, it'll be handled. Then I'm not so unforgiving towards myself or towards others for that matter. If I understand that it's that same invisible hand bringing every interaction my way, becoming that person who triggers me, becoming this me who's being triggered, and all this is being maneuvered to only take me to a better place. So there's another beautiful line in Savitri: man's splendid failures sum to victory. All our failures add up to a victory of consciousness. We are very concerned about external victories, but they come and go. Nobody is going to be poised in a permanent external victory, right? Externally, you will go up and down. But every up and down is adding up to a victory of consciousness. And that's the only thing that's finally lasting, right? So now we come to the PDF. We come to the first part, which is understanding thought. Our title is the redeeming reality behind dream thought. So let's understand the first part, the dream thought. This is Eckhart Tolle's words. This is most people's reality. As soon as something is perceived, it is named, interpreted, compared with something else, liked or disliked, or called good or bad by the phantom self, the ego. They are imprisoned in thought forms in object consciousness. You do not awaken spiritually until the compulsive and unconscious naming ceases, or at least you become aware of it, and thus are able to observe it as it happens. So, what Toll is saying, I perceive something, and immediately my mind begins a dream thought about it. I'm looking at you, but it doesn't stop there. I start thinking of it, but that's synonymous with I'm starting dreaming of it. And that dream is very different from the reality of what I'm seeing. So every judgment is a dream thought. I won't call it a thought, I'll keep saying dream thought to remind us that it's only a dream. It's not real. So many times in hindsight, we see that what I was so sure that my judgment was correct was not correct at all. It will never be correct. Your thought will never be 100% truth or a true judgment on anything. Are we on the same page? Yeah?
But isn't it instinctive?
It is instinctive, but that's the whole point. It's instinctive because it's unconscious. You have to bring consciousness to it so it doesn't become instinctive. So, you do not awaken spiritually until the compulsive and unconscious naming ceases. That's what we are asleep, right? So, the Buddha, when he was called Prince Siddhartha. And the moment he got enlightenment, he was called Buddha, the awakened one, because he had awoken from the dream of thoughts. Till then, all of us are living in a dream world of thoughts. Enlightenment is awakening from this dream of thoughts. So you do not awaken spiritually until the compulsive and unconscious naming ceases, or at least you become aware of it and thus are able to observe it as it happens. It is through this constant naming that the ego remains in place as the unobserved mind. This is brilliant. He calls the ego nothing but the unobserved mind. What is unobserved mind? When you're thinking and you're not aware of the awareness space behind thought, which is observing. When you're not conscious of the observing field, you're identified with thought. That is the unobserved mind and that is the ego. Clear? Clear?
Who's observing?
The real you is observing. The dream you is...
So it's not the one who judges.
No, the judgment happens in dreams. The observer simply observes. There's no judgment. So, when we perceive without interpreting or mental labeling, which means without adding thought to our perception, we can still sense the deeper interconnectedness beneath our perception of seemingly separate things. Neither concepts or mathematical formula can explain the infinite. No thought can encapsulate the vastness of the totality. Reality is a unified whole, but thought cuts it up into fragments. So that's the whole point. Reality is a whole, but thought cuts it up into fragments. So if you, I keep giving you that example, if there's a jigsaw puzzle, if you fit all the pieces together, a beautiful picture will emerge. But if you take one piece of the jigsaw in isolation and see it, it will be a meaningless blur of colors. And you'll try to make sense of it, right? You'll think it's this or that. But till you fit it into the whole, you'll never know what the reality is. So whatever we are seeing through our thoughts is that piece of jigsaw puzzle. However hard we look at it or try to make sense of it, whatever sense you're making of it is somewhere untrue. So, neither concepts nor mathematical formulae can explain the infinite. No thought can encapsulate the vastness of the totality. Reality is a unified whole, but thought cuts it up into fragments. This gives rise to fundamental misperceptions. For example, there are separate things and events, or that this is the cause of that. Every thought implies a perspective, and every perspective by its very nature implies limitation, which ultimately means that it is not true, or at least not absolutely. This is so beautiful to always, in fact, if you have the PDF printout, you should just highlight these lines. Whenever you're upset, if you just read these lines, they'll wake you up. You're upset is because you're seeing one small bit of reality and making a whole judgment around it. But you don't know the totality. So just drop your judgment about it. However right it seems, just tell yourself it's wrong somewhere. It can't be totally right. And if you lose your conviction in your upset, the upset will dissolve. You're very convinced that the upset is justified. That's why it holds you so deeply. But if you just remind yourself this is a perspective, it's a perspective conditioned by my past. It's not totality, it's not reality. Somewhere you'll be less convinced about your judgment. That means you'll be less convinced about your upset. That means you'll be less upset, right? So, only the whole is true, but the whole cannot be spoken or thought, seen from beyond the limitations of thinking and therefore incomprehensible to the human mind. Everything is happening now. All that ever has been or will be is now, outside of time, which is a mental construct. When when you don't cover up the world with words and labels, a sense of the miraculous returns to your life that was lost a long time ago when humanity, instead of losing thought, became possessed by thought. A depth returns to your life. A depth returns to your life when you don't cover up the world with words and labels. Things regain their newness, their freshness, and the great miracle is the experiencing of your essential self as prior to any words, thoughts, mental labels, and images. For this to happen, you need to disentangle your sense of I, of beingness from all things it has become mixed up with. That is to say, identified with. Now this is Savitri, it's beautiful. The mind of mortal man is led by words, right? He's saying the same thing. The mind of mortal man is led by words. His sight retires behind walls of thought. So Sri Aurobindo used to say, I'm not a philosopher, I'm a seer. I write what I see. So a rishi, the word rishi comes from the root seeing. A rishi is one who has vision. So here he's saying, because the mind of mortal man is led by words, his sight retires, his right falls asleep behind the wall of thoughts. We have the illusion that moment we've labeled something, we know it. I've labeled that as a leaf, I know it. But do I really know what a leaf is? I don't. But I won't bother to find out because I'm solaced. I've recognized it as a leaf. So if you keep labeling things, you'll never see it for what it is. So his sight retires behind the walls of thought and looks out only through half-opened doors of consciousness. He cuts the boundless truth into sky strips. It's so beautiful. Truth is an infinite sky. The mind cuts it into sky strips. And every strips he takes for all the heavens. You're cutting up the sky into strips and looking at that strip and thinking it's whole heaven. It's the whole heaven. He stares at infinite possibility and gives to the plastic vast the name of chance. He sees the long results of an all-wise force, planning a sequence of steps in endless time, but in its links imagines a senseless chain, or the dead hand of cold necessity. He answers not to the mystic mother's heart. So when we are caught up with thought, we don't answer the hidden, the mysterious, the occult mother's heart. What is the occult mother's heart? The redeeming real behind the dream thought. That consciousness behind is the mother, isn't it? But we are so caught up in thinking that we don't see the miracle and the magic isn't it a miracle that every circumstance of our life is being manipulated to somehow work out a good out of all this chaos? What could be the bigger miracle than that? But we are constantly blind to that miracle because our sight has retired behind walls of thought. And so we are not able to respond to the mystic mother's heart. He answers not to the mystic mother's heart, misses the ardent heavings of her breast, and feels old rigid limbs of lifeless law. So the ardent heavings of her breast is the pulsations of love that the whole universe is throbbing with. But we don't feel it. Actually, we did it last time. We began with it, that the universe is pouring love into us all the time. But we are blind to it because our thought is making us look for love only through that one window, one door, one person. That we are blind to all the love that's being poured into us through every circumstance in every moment. Imagine how important you are to the all all-intelligence that it's planning every moment of your life. I mean, that's how important each one of you is to that. But we are blind to it unless we open our eyes. The will of the timeless working out in time, in the free absolute steps of cosmic truth, he thinks a dead machine or unconscious force in the free absolute steps of a cosmic truth. This cosmic truth is what's working out in our life. We think there's a dead machine or an unconscious state. So somewhere else in Savitri he writes, alive in a dead rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a random globe, abandoned to a task beyond our force. This is not a random universe. Yeah, everything, there's a purpose, there's a hand, an outstretched hand is felt upon our lives, he says. So, a magician's formulas, magician is the all-intelligence, the omniscient, the God intelligence, that's the magician. A magician's formulas have made matters law, and while they last, all things by them are bound. The law of karma, all that is made by the all-intelligence. But the spirit's consent is needed for each act, and freedom walks in the same pace with law. This is so beautiful. So, suppose I have a particular trigger in my consciousness, and that trigger will invite ABC person to bring out that irritation or that response in me, right? And I will think the person is bringing it out in me. But as I say very often, if you squeeze a lemon, lemon juice will come out. If you squeeze a mango, mango juice will come out. When I'm squeezed, what comes out is not due to the hand that squeezes me. It's because of the content of consciousness inside me, right? The same trigger to another person will bring out another response, better or worse, but will be different. So firstly, I should understand that it's pointless blaming the triggers. If you try to run away from triggers, you'll never find peace. Because the triggers will keep being sent by life so that what the ignorance inside you comes out and you can work with it and change it. So if you are bound in your ignorance, you can't change it. You give the same response again and again, the same triggers will come. But if you draw on your spirit strength and another response comes, if you don't get triggered, or even if you get triggered for a shorter time, if your priority is not to fight that person, but to fight the response which is, or reaction which has come up in you, then you're going to be a winner. Fighting the person, one way or the other, you'll keep losing. But you'll be a winner when you really fight the reaction in you. And fight it not with aggression, like how stupid, again I'm feeling. That's again ignorance. That's another, that inadequacy and self-flogging is another unconscious way of being. So that's another thing you need to fight. So not like that, but really bring consciousness to it. Ask Mother for help. Firstly, if you want to grow, never blame anyone outside, nor blame yourself. This is not about playing a blame game. It's about becoming conscious. So I firmly believe that if anything goes wrong in my life, some ignorance in my life, in my consciousness has attracted it. So very often you will hear people say, but I didn't do anything and he behaved so badly. But to me that never makes sense. You may not have done anything in words, but something in, see, Mother says it, no, whenever there's a quarrel, both parties involved have to be wrong. Even if one party is in the right, there'll never be a quarrel. So, for me, whenever I'm in conflict with anyone, I stop thinking about the person. I stop thinking the person said this, the person said that. I sit with myself and I closely examine my interactions with the person, and I ask myself, where was the pocket of unconsciousness in my interaction? And when I really look at it, I'll always find it. And instead of making it make me feel small about it, it empowers me. Because if I'm looking for fault in the person, I'll keep feeling wronged. I see so many faults that I can't do anything to change it. But if I see that in me, I have all the power to change it, right? So instead of feeling small about it, it empowers me. This is not about sending myself on a guilt trip. It's an understood that if I'm a human being, I'm going to be a package deal of many things. I'm not going to be perfect. But if at least I know where there are pockets of unconsciousness, I can make that package deal a little nicer. So it's empowering rather than feeling guilty about it, isn't it? Radha? Yeah. And while they last, all things by them are bound. But the Spirit's consent is needed for each act, and freedom walks in the same pace with law. All here can change if the magician choose, if human will could be made one with God's, if human thought could echo the thoughts of God, man might be all-knowing and omnipotent. But now he walks in nature's doubtful ray. Yet can the mind of man receive God's light? The force of man can be driven by God's force. Then he's a miracle doing miracles. So isn't it a miracle to change the human package that you are, so that next time you're squeezed, another response comes out? Isn't that the real miracle? That you can remake yourself constantly. For only so can he be nature's king. It is decreed and Satyavan must die. This is Narad telling Savitri's father. The hour is fixed and chosen the fatal stroke. What else shall be is written in her soul. But till the hour reveals the faithful script, the writing waits illegible and new. That's why not even the best astrologer can really predict your future. Because whatever is decreed, if the soul force comes forward, everything can change. Fate is a truth working out in ignorance. O king, he's telling Ashwapati, Savitri's father, O king, thy fate is a transaction done at every hour between nature and thy soul. Nature is the reaction that comes up, and soul is the spirit force that steps in to change that. How, to the extent to which the spirit force steps in and changes your reaction, your future is determined. If you react the same old way of strengthening the same old karmic patterns, the same thing will keep repeating. But if you change your response, if you break that cycle of consciousness, then you're changing your fate. Man can accept his fate, he can refuse. Even if the one maintains the unseen decree, he writes thy refusal in thy credit page. This is such a beautiful line. It's saying that even if somehow you're triggered and you react, but something in you tries to overcome that reaction, you earn a brownie point. In God's register, that still earned you some credit, which will stand you in good stead next time the reaction comes. For doom is not a close or a mystic seal, arisen from the tragic crash of life, arisen from the body's torture and death. The spirit rises mightier by defeat so beautiful. what is external failure could actually be a huge spiritual success. The spirit rises mightier by defeat. Its god-like wings grow wider with each fall. Its splendid failures sum to victory. O man, the events that meet thee on thy road, though they smite thy body and soul with joy and grief, are not thy fate. They touch thee for a while and pass. Even death can cut not short thy spirit's walk. The goal, the road thou choosest are thy fate. The road you choose in your consciousness, that is your fate. A laborer in the dark, dazzled by half light. This is from another passage in Savitri. The mind is like a laborer in the dark, dazzled by half light. What it knew was an image in a broken glass. Can we open that so we get a cross, please? Thank you. Open it fully. A laborer in the dark, dazzled by half light. What it knew was an image in a broken glass. What it saw was real, but its sight untrue. Whatever we are seeing through our thoughts, it's like images in a broken glass. If glass is broken and we see the fan reflected on it, our sight is real, our vision is correct. But what we are seeing, the image of the fan is distorted because we are seeing it through thought. Aims puny but looming large in man's small scale, flickers of imagination's brilliant gauze, and cobweb-wrapped beliefs alive no more. The magic hut of built-up certitudes, made out of glittering dust and bright moonshine, in which it shrines its image of the real, collapsed into the nations whence it rose. Assailed by another passage from Savitri, page 286, assailed by the edge of the convicting beam. So convicting beam is the beam of truth. When our consciousness is attacked by the truth, speaking metaphorically, the builder reason lost her confidence in the successful slate and turn of thought that makes the soul the prisoner of a phrase. Its highest wisdom was a brilliant guess. It's so beautiful when we actually recognize that the highest wisdom of my reason is only a guess at reality. It's not the real reality. It cannot be. Its highest reason, its highest wisdom was a brilliant guess. Its mighty structured science of the worlds, a passing light on being surfaces. There was nothing there but a schema drawn by sense, a substitute for eternal mysteries, a scroll figure of reality, a plan, an elevation by the architect, word imposed upon the semblances of time. So this was about the dream thought. Now we come to the redeeming real. What is the redeeming real? So let's just talk about it before we read. So we've established that behind thought there's a field of awareness which is the real. Now what is the nature of this field? The nature of this field is peace. And peace comes from faith. You cannot really be at peace without having faith that you're good, right? Think about it. You can be at peace only when you're assured you're good and you're in a good place. So the fabric of the peace of that awareness is Kalyan Shraddha, faith in the goodness of existence. Faith that everything is part of the field of eternal good. So we did this in our morning yoga class. Let's do it again. So understand what we are doing. Above our head, there is a truth consciousness, right? Let's call it the source consciousness or the mother consciousness. It's our source. Now, Sri Aurobindo says that this mother consciousness can be communicated with Like a child communicating with the mother. It's very simple. The child asks the mother, give me food, give me milk, the mother will give it. The consciousness child in us can ask this mother consciousness for peace, for faith, for truth, and the mother will give it. Sri Aurobindo and the mother make spirituality as simple as this, a child asking a mother for what it needs. So this consciousness above is full of peace, it's full of faith, it's full of truth. Last time we called down peace, today we call down truth. Truth in its aspect of Shraddha, Kalyan Shraddha or Bhadram. Okay, so let's sit tall. Gently touch the top of your head with your fingers and press down. And then release your hand. And just open the top of your head to the overhead space like a flower opening to the sun, like a child's arms opening to the mother to be lifted up. Just wait and sense, or rather approach this space with the positive faith that my higher self, the mother consciousness, exists here and is waiting to be communicated with by me. Think of the truth consciousness, or rather feel it, as a cloud, a luminous cloud pressing down on the top of your head. Breathe for a few breaths, trying to sense that cloud. And even if you don't sense it, know it's there, like your heart is beating. Even if you can't feel the heartbeat, the mother is there here, full of her truth and power and peace. And enter your heart space. Inhale, climb to the overhead space. Exhale, flow down your body with the word Hadram. Hadram means the eternal good. So the truth of faith in the eternal good is what I'm calling down. Every exhalation, as if that cloud of truth releases the rain of truth flowing down your body. Exhale with Hadram. Luminous, happy faith. Faith that there's a happier spiritual intention behind every moment of pain. Faith that everything is part of this eternal field of Bhadram. What has happened in the past is part of this field. What will happen in the future too is part of this field. I cannot see this with my surface mind. Mother, let your truth descend into me. The truth that shows me that this is so. So that in my own drishti, in my own seeing, I see this for myself rather than just hearing it as theory. And from this vision, my past is already blessed. But when I see the blessing in it, I access the blessing. My future is also blessed. But when I see the blessing in it, I access the blessing. So in the morning class, we did this beautiful mantra from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. wisdom. May the universal wisdom be blessed. Om Kshatraya Swaha. Kshatriya, may universal courage that arises from wisdom be blessed. Bhutaya Swaha, may the past be blessed. When I see that everything in my past was perfectly as it needed to be, then I'm authentically able to bless the past. Bhavishyate Swaha, may my future also be blessed. With all its ups and downs, my future will be a blessing. It is so. So hear it once and then we'll chant it together. Brahmane Swaha, Kshatraya Swaha, Bhutaya Swaha, Bhavishyate Swaha. All of us. Brahmane Swaha, Kshatraya Swaha, Bhutaya Swaha, Bhavishyate Swaha. Last three breaths, connect with the overhead space as you inhale. Exhale, flow down the body with the word Bhadram. As if faith is a happy substance flowing down your body, a consciousness substance, amplifying the body wherever it flows. And since the body is condensed mind, amplifying the mind also. And then slowly open your eyes. This is a very simple and beautiful practice to do whenever the mind goes into a slightly depressive mode. You go into that mode because you've lost touch with the truth of Kalyan Shraddha. You've lost touch with Bhadram. So when you don't feel safe in life, then you go into survival mode. And when you're surviving, you can't be happy because you're defensive. But if you just call down the truth of Bhadram from the mother consciousness, it's amazing how it can instantly brighten you, isn't it? Yeah? So now the redeeming real. Eckhart told his words, why does the ego play roles? Because of one unexamined assumption, one fundamental error, one unconscious thought. That thought is, I am not enough. The refrain of every ego will be, I am not enough. So I have to play roles in order to feel enough. Other unconsciousness thoughts follow. I need to play a role in order to get what I need to be fully myself. I need to get more so that I can be more. But you cannot be more than you are, because underneath your physical and psychological form, you are one with life itself, one with being. In form, you are and always and will always be inferior to some, superior to some. In essence, because you're one with all life. In form, however good you are, somebody will be better than you. In form, however bad you are, somebody will be worse than you. And that will keep changing. At this moment, you will be better. 2 days later, you will be worse. It's a fluctuating thing which one mustn't give too much importance to. True self-esteem and true humility arise out of that realization. In the eyes of ego, self-esteem and humility are contradictory. In truth, they are one and the same. Next passage by Toll. What I could there be apart from life, apart from being? It is utterly impossible. So there is no such thing as my life, and I don't have a life. I am life. I and life are one. It cannot be otherwise. So how can I lose my life? How can I lose something I don't have in the first place? How can I lose something that I am? I am life, so how can I lose it? It's impossible. Acknowledging the good that is already in your life is the foundation of all abundance. So if you keep focusing on lack, you'll invite lack. But if you focus on the abundance in your life, you'll invite abundance. The source of all abundance is not outside you, it is a part of who you are. However, start by acknowledging and recognizing abundance without. See the fullness of life all around you. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the display of magnificent flowers outside the florist shop, biting into a succulent fruit, or getting soaked in the abundance of water falling from the sky. The fullness of life is there at every step. The acknowledgement of that abundance that is all around you awakens the dormant abundance within. Then let it flow out. When you smile at a stranger, there is already a minute outflow of energy. You become a giver. Ask yourself often, what can I give here? How can I be of service to this person, this situation? You don't need to own anything to feel abundant. Although if you feel abundant consistently, things will almost certainly come to you. Abundance comes only to those who already have it. So beautiful, isn't it? If you live with a consciousness of abundance, abundance will come to you. But if your inner dialogue is even inarticulated, nobody loves me, I'm no good, I can't be loved, I don't have this, I don't have that. However you see your life, if you see your life as a big trauma, life says tathastu to that and becomes traumatic. Whatever you see your life as, life will say, okay, you're seeing me as that, I'll become that. So you have to actually change the way you look at life for it to change. The sapling doesn't want anything because it's at one with the totality and the totality acts through it. Look at the lilies of the field, how they grow, said Jesus. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet even Solomon, King Solomon in all his glory, was not arrayed like one of these. The lilies don't put any makeup, they don't dress, they don't shop for 1,000 rupee worth of clothes. And yet there's nothing prettier than the flowers which just bloom, because life works through them and they offer themselves to life to bloom. We could say that the totality life wants the sapling to become a tree. Totality is the field of Bhadram, which wants every sapling, each one of us, to become a tree. But the sapling doesn't see itself as separate from life, so wants nothing for itself. It is one with what life wants. That's why it isn't worried or stressed. And if it has to die prematurely, it dies with ease. It is as surrendered in death as it is in life. It senses, no matter how obscurely, its rootedness in being, the formless and eternal one life. When I no longer confuse who I am with the temporary form of me, then the dimension of the limitless, the eternal God can express itself through me and guide me. It also frees me from dependency on form. However, purely intellectual recognition or belief that I'm not this form does not help. The all important question is at this moment, this is very important. The all important question is at this moment, can I sense the presence of inner space? Which really means, can I sense my own presence, or rather the presence that I am? What is this presence? The observing field behind thought. If we can sense that and sense the peace in it, then I'm sensing my own presence, the God presence that I am. Ask yourself, am I aware only of what is happening in this moment? Am I aware not only of what is happening in this moment, but also of the now itself as the limit, as the living, limitless inner space in which everything happens? There are three words that convey the secret of the art of living, the secret of all success and happiness, one with life. Being one with life is being one with now. You then realize that you don't live your life, but life lives you. Life is the dancer and you are the dance. God is the one life in and beyond countless forms of life. Love implies duality, lover and beloved, subject and object. So love is the recognition of oneness in the world of duality. This is the birth of God into the world of forms. So wherever true love is born, there a little bit of God is born in the world of forms. Love makes the world less worldly, less dense, more transparent to the divine dimension, the light of consciousness itself. So this is beautiful. We take a full circle and always come back to this mystery of love, isn't it? Because love is really what gives us resilience. So Nash, can you come here? We had a Yoga International Day celebration at GP, and Nash spoke something beautiful about resilience and love. Would you like to share it? Pratna?
Sure. So, when I thought of resilience, the first idea that came to me was that many of us assume that resilience is based on the. They'll be able to hear me, I think so. Loud enough. So, that resilience is based on effort and working with strength and power and a very forceful manner. But I observed that in moments where I felt that I needed resilience, I found that personal willpower did not come naturally, but love became the lever that helped me manage situations. And even when I spoke about wanting to learn yoga, I did not enjoy doing yoga in the start because I was stiff, physically very stiff, and I felt that I shouldn't do this. But my aunt was someone I loved, and I said that okay, it makes her happy that I come for class, so let me try doing it. And I kept doing it regularly, and there was always that feeling that oh, I should stop it, but no, it makes Masi happy, so I'll come, so I'll come. And that love helped me find my love for yoga, and
So
that
it
gave
gave
me.
him resilience to stick the effort. When you're stiff, you have to make a lot of effort to do the asanas, right?
Yes, and then that I found that love came naturally towards yoga also, and then that resilience. And in many situations in life, I found that that resilience comes from a space of love, not from a space of personal effort. So much so, because your personal effort eventually you want to change your mind, so I won't do it instead. So that was the idea.
Thank you. So he said a very important thing. When you have difficulty in life, What will empower you the most is love. Love for life itself, right? If you're living in the field of Bhadram and you're really loving life, that love itself will give you the resilience. That love itself will give you the calm, quiet confidence in divine grace. So what Nash was saying was very beautiful. We normally think that resilience is about strength, force, aggression. But the real resilience comes from vulnerability. Real resilience comes when you love something in the moment. They say, no, what you do for love, you'd never do for money or power, isn't it? When you love somebody, you'll extend yourself, you'll go that extra mile for that person. You'll have the resilience to do it. So Rumi says it so beautifully. One who loves carries the whole world on his shoulders effortlessly. One who doesn't love carries his own body as if it's a dead weight, a corpse. So when you're not in the field of love, everything in life becomes a burden. But when you're in the field of love, in the field of Bhadram, in the field of Kalyan Shraddha, whatever life throws at you, you carry it with good grace. You get the resilience to go through it. So now we come back to Savitri, absolutely explicit lines. So, as one drawn to his lost spiritual home, feels now the closeness of a waiting love. So for our purposes, let's take this passage as being pulled towards the real behind. Okay, we are talking about the real behind. As one drawn to his lost spiritual home, feels now the closeness of a waiting love into a passage dim and tremulous that clasped him in from day and night's pursuit. He travelled led by a mysterious sound, a murmur, multitudinous and lone. So the sound was many nuanced, multitudinous, and it was lone at the same time. All sounds it was in turn, yet still the same. Yeah, it's the same refrain. It was everything and yet one. A hidden call to unforeseen delight. In the summoning voice of one long known, well loved, but nameless to the unremembering mind. We often feel this, no, when we are at the Samadhi or Matri Mandir or any special place. It's like something is calling us. It's like we've known it all our life, but we can't remember it. Do you get that feeling? Like it's familiar, I know it, but I can't remember it, I can't think of it. So, in the summoning voice of one long known, well loved, but nameless to the unremembering mind, it led to rapture back the truant heart, the heart that had wandered away from bliss. This voice brought it back home to rapture and bliss. The immortal cry ravished the captive ear. Then lowering its imperious mystery, it sang to a whisper circling round the soul. It seemed the yearning of a lonely flute that roamed along the shores of memory and filled the eyes with tears of longing joy. The flute always represents the call of the beyond, Krishna's call, the attraction of the God to the human soul. So, it seemed the yearning of a lonely flute that roamed along the shores of memory and filled the eyes with tears of longing joy. A cricket's rash and fiery single note, it marked with shrill melody night's meaningless hush and beat upon a nerve of mystic sleep, its high, insistent, magical revive. A jingling silver laugh of anklet bells. So anklet bells is again Krishna, the all beautiful, the all attractive. A jingling silver laugh of anklet of a solitary heart. Its dance, solace and eternal loneliness. So beautiful. So this call of Krishna dancing with his gurus in our heart, solace and eternal loneliness. We keep feeling lonely till we feel it. And surrounded by people also, we feel alone and lonely. So a jingling silver laugh of anklet bells travel the roads of a solitary heart. Its dance solaced an eternal loneliness. An old forgotten sweetness sobbing came. An incense floated in the quivering air. A mystic happiness trembled in the breast, as if the invisible beloved had come, assuming the sudden loveliness of a face, and close glad hands could seize his fugitive feet, and the world changed with the beauty of the smile. So beautiful. This is the feel we get when we come close to the beyond. I'm just reading it. I don't want to spoil it with explanation. Just hear it quietly and see what it feels like. It seemed the yearning of a lonely flute that roamed along the shores of memory and filled the eyes with tears of longing joy. A cricket's rash and fiery single note, it marked with shrill melody night's moonless hush, and beat upon a nerve of mystic sleep, its high, insistent, magical revive. A jingling silver laugh of anklet bells travel the roads of a solitary heart. Its dance solaced an eternal loneliness. An old forgotten sweetness sobbing came. An incense floated in the quivering air. A mystic happiness trembled in the heart, as if the invisible beloved had come, assuming the sudden loveliness of a face, and close glad hands could seize his fugitive feet, and the world changed with the beauty of a smile. And another passage from Savitri, page 291. The silent soul of all the world was there. A being lived, a presence and a power. A single person who was himself and all, and cherished nature's sweet and dangerous draughts, transfigured into beats divine and pure. So this consciousness of the reality behind, it was in a way it was this world soul. This is from a canto called the World Soul. One who could love without return for love. Our mind can only love if we get love back. But this consciousness behind could love without return for love. Meeting and turning to the best, the worst. Meeting and turning to the best, the worst. It healed the bitter cruelties of earth, transforming all experience to delight. Intervening in the sorrowful paths of birth, it rocked the cradle of the cosmic child. It stilled all weeping with its hand of joy. It lets things evil towards their secret good. It turned wrath falsehood into happy truth. Its power was to reveal divinity. It bore within itself a seed, a flame. A seed from which the eternal is newborn. It's so beautiful. So this consciousness behind carries in it a seed and a flame. A seed which is constantly sprouting. The eternal is newborn. Each one of us is the eternal, constantly new birthing. So that consciousness behind carries this seed, a seed from which the eternal is newborn. A flame that cancels the death in mortal things. So beautiful. So a seed which gives birth and a flame which cancels death. Right? The flame is our immortal nature. It's exquisite poetry. flame that cancels death in mortal things. All grew to all kindred and self and near. The intimacy of God was everywhere. So beautiful. This can be a mantra. Intimacy of God is everywhere. Nobody is a stranger because everyone is God. So I'm intimate with everything in existence. When you touch that consciousness behind, it becomes a living fact. The intimacy of God was everywhere. The intimacy of God was everywhere. No veil was felt, no brute barrier inert. Distance could not divide, time could not change. Page 295, Savitri. Above them all she stands, supporting all. The sole omnipotent goddess ever veiled, of whom the world is the inscrutable mass. So this sums it up. The consciousness behind is this all-powerful mother goddess, of whom the world is an inscrutable. We can't scrutinize it or understand it. Of whom the world is a mask. The ages are the footfalls of her tread, the happenings, the figure of her thoughts, and all creation is her endless act. Her spirit was made a vessel of her force. His spirit was, that is Ashwapati's, Savitri's father's. His spirit was made a vessel of her force, mute in the fathomless passion of his will. He outstretched to her his golden hands of prayer. So I'll just read this passage without explanation. It's the last passage for today. Above them all she stands, supporting all. The sole omnipotent goddess ever veiled, of whom the world is the inscrutable mass. The ages are the footfalls of her tread, the happenings, the figure of her thoughts, and all creation is her endless act. His spirit was made a vessel of her force, mute in the fathomless passion of his will. He outstretched to her his folded hands of prayer. Any questions? So let's just sit and let's summarize our talk so that we can bring it into our life. So, if we look at our thoughts are often pessimistic, and Mother calls it actually subconscious pessimism. A pessimism which is constantly coming from our subconscious mind, dreading this, fearing that, regretting this, feeling shortchanged by that, feeling wronged by this. So that is the turning of our subconscious mind in our conscious mind, the archives of our subconscious coming in our conscious mind. So in that sense, every thought is a dream, a structured dream, as Savitri says, structured by our past. Yeah? So if we are clear about that, when thoughts come, we should be able to remind ourselves, I'm very convinced my thought is correct, but however right it seems, it will always be inaccurate. It will always be false, because as Sri Aurobindo says, thought cuts up the sky into strips and takes each strip to be the whole sky. So we never know the truth with our thoughts. So whenever we are upset, it's very important to remind ourselves that I'm upset because I'm taking my thought very seriously. So to try and step back, but that won't work if the thought becomes an emotion, because the emotion feels even more. If it's at the level of thought, it's okay, but if you think a thought enough, it solidifies into an emotion. And an emotion feels even more real than a thought. So then, to work with it, an emotion will always have a counterpart in your body. If you look carefully when you're feeling a strong emotion, you'll always feel a tightening somewhere in your chest, in your belly, somewhere. So it's nice to put your hands on it, breathe, be okay with the discomfort of that emotion, and just be present to it without judgment, without wishing it away. Just see, just be unconditional with yourself. Don't call any emotional wrong. Don't call any thought wrong. It's part of being human. But it's also a part of being human to outgrow them. So while you're forgiving and unconditional towards them, you also have an aspiration that you work with them in the moment so that in future something more pleasant comes out of you. If you don't work with the unpleasant when it arises in the moment, it will keep repeating itself. But when it arises, if you work with it, then its recording in your subconscious mind gets weaker. You're changing the recording. So in future, more pleasant things will come out of you. And if you have access to the real behind the dream thought, which is the awareness space, which is always undisturbed by the thought, and you start paying more attention to that awareness space rather than to the thought, then because that space has peace and the thought has disturbance, you automatically get pulled to the awareness space like iron filings to the magnet. But for that, you have to practice becoming aware of that awareness space. Another way, so different methods will work for different people. This will work for some. For some of you, the meditation we did with Bhadram will work. Just calling to the mother consciousness about the head and asking for faith that my mind is convincing me that everything is dark and dismal and I'm being wronged and I've always been wronged. But give me the truth that sets me free of it, the truth of Bhadram, the truth of Kalyan Shraddha, and you can call it down. But work with your upset. Don't just distract yourself from it by going to the phone, by going to movies. Don't distract yourself from your upset. Be present to it, use it as an opportunity.